And we're live. Okay, it looks like we're broadcasting on YouTube now. So what's up? This is your girl. Yes, we are live on YouTube. Sorry, what's up? This is your girl, Martha D. Staab, owner of MDMC Entertainment with...
I'm Marc Schoder. I'm head of the Southwest Division for MDMC. What is going on, people?
I'm so excited. This is episode 1. Okay, we are now live on... I was really excited about the YouTube thing because when we did the test the other day, it wasn't going onto YouTube. So now we are legit. We're live on all of our platforms. That's really... Well, not all of our platforms, but we are here, and this is exciting. I'm actually going to share this to my personal before we get started. Let's get people in. God almighty. Mark, how are you feeling today?
I rolled out of bed, went to one virtual meeting, and then actually straightened up and came to this one.
Oh my gosh, no, I had the same thing. I had a meeting scheduled for yesterday, and the person I was doing it with was like, I can't do this right now. Can we reschedule? And I was like, okay, when? And she's like, tomorrow. And I was like, oh. I was like, okay. So I set it up for 9 o'clock. Oh, Matthias, no, honey, we're broadcasting. But we scheduled it for this morning at 9, and I was like, all right, let's get it done. And usually those meetings last like 30 minutes. Today it lasted longer. It was about 10 minutes till 10, and I'm like, okay, let's get done up a little bit. So kind of had to put in some crows in there. So yeah, it's kind of really exciting to be here and start this off. I shared this onto my personal page. So Mark, did you do the same?
I'm actually doing that right now. I had to bring it up on my other computer.
Yeah, I'm really excited to this is I did a quick little promo on Instagram, on IG, on all the MDMC accounts and stuff. So, but yeah, this is exciting. So basically, for those of you that don't know, we decided to start this a couple weeks ago, actually almost a month ago. Mark brought it up to me. This is during our time that we meet, and he's like, all the really cool conversations we have, it'd actually be really beneficial to someone to hear them. And, I'm all about storytelling and telling, people about stuff and, hopefully deriving some sort of inspiration from it so people can learn from it. And we went with it.
And that's kind of, I just kind of threw the idea out there. I'm like, you trying to push your dog away?
Yeah, I did. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's been crazy. But basically episode 1, I really want to talk about what MDMC is, where it came from, how did it start. And then once we get over the introductions of what our company is, we're going to go straight into some business, which is the operating a business through a pandemic, which I think a lot of businesses out there are suffering. So I'll get it started. I'll basically tell my story. Mark, if you ever want to interject,
of course, you start.
So backstory, Mark and I actually have known each other for almost a decade now. We met in college at Eastern New Mexico University, New Mexico. I'm originally from Roswell, New Mexico. Mark is originally from the East Coast. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And we met in college, and I got a degree in public relations.
I was gonna say, what did you get your degree?
It was a bachelor's in communications with an emphasis in public relations. Mm-hmm. I kind of coming into the nerdy side. I was really inspired by some of the superhero movies and cartoons, and to kind of go into the direction of journalism. A lot of people don't really know that, but the first thing I remember, the first memory of actually knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up, was watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and watching April O'Neil, and she was part of that action and stuff, and she was a reporter, and I was like, that sounds like fun, I want to do that. And then it progressed a couple years later when Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman came out, and I saw Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane, and I was like, wow, I want to be like Lois Lane. And subconsciously, I didn't really think that was going to be like, I thought it'd be cool, but eventually over time, got into high school. I ended up on the school newspaper, and I was really trying to figure out where I was meant to be in the world. And my dad's like, you love getting in front of people, you love talking and doing these things. Why not go into public relations? And I was like, And I looked it up and I was like, okay. And this was right around the time, bad influence. But, Sex and the City was really big at that time when I was graduating high school. And Samantha Jones was, planning these elaborate parties and doing these amazing things. I'm like, yo, she has a really cool career and that's in PR. I think I might do that. And, I looked into it further and I was like, okay, yeah, this is totally where I'm meant to be. So I went to college. I did my first couple of years at Eastern New Mexico University, Roswell, because I'm originally from Roswell, New Mexico. And eventually I got done with doing all of the basics and went off into the 4-year college and finished up my degree in 2 years because I started the first 2 at the community college. And I really got into my groove. Like it was really, I don't know, it was very symbiotic, I guess. It was just something that I just naturally fit into. And, growing up, I never really fit in anywhere. So to be able to find something that just really melded me well was, it was just, something really cool. And I said, I totally want to do this. And I did it. I got my degree. Back then, I really wanted to work for the NFL and do public relations for the NFL. I know that at one point I wanted to work for E! News. I still do. I actually know a couple people out there. And I was really trying to figure out where I was like, you have these big aspirations, but there's always been a little hinge of like entertainment aspect in it. I just didn't know how I was going to get that. Eventually I moved off to the East Coast. My husband got stationed out in North Carolina, which there was nothing to do. So I decided to get my master's out there. Completed that in a 1.5 years. And eventually I ended up moving back to Roswell while he deployed. And when I got to Roswell, during my undergrad, I actually was a substitute teacher. And so, back in New Mexico, you can sub as an undergrad. I think you make like $60 a day. It was easy money, it wasn't that bad. But when I
at now, actually, it's like $100 a day up here.
Without a degree?
With a degree.
Yeah, with a degree. When I came back and actually had a degree, it moved up to like 110 or something. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. It also, because of my years of experience at Roswell Independent School District, they were my first employers, and they continued to employ me in various assets of my transition in life. And but I went to substitute teach because I was like, this is definitely a great way to make some cash. And my mom was the registrar of the school that I was subbing at. And so it was easy. My mom was like, hey, this teacher's out. She needs a sub. And I was like, and the teachers knew me. So it was easy to get back right into it. But I learned that after 2 years of being away, kids change dramatically. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I ended up just going off and looking in the classifieds, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. And I saw that the Roswell Daily Record was hiring for an advertising position, and I was like, all right, I can totally do that. And I brought in my portfolio, and a lot of that portfolio had work from ENMU. It had like Dr. What was the comm theory guy?
Schroeder.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Schroeder's theory paper was in there. A lot of our wonderful teacher, Dr. Dobson, she was Ms. Dobson when I was there, but she since become a doctor. A lot of the things that we did for like reporting class and things like that, those were in there. So when the person was looking through it, she's like, you're a writer, you're not an advertising person. I was like, look, I'm just trying to get out of subbing. And she was like, we just had someone quit on the journalism side. Let's talk to the editor. The editor came in, he looked at my portfolio, he says, yeah, come in for an interview. So I came back and I nailed it. And then I just remember this moment where I was just like, it was a Friday. I was just laid out on my couch. My mom was on her recliner in her bedroom. She's like, let's just take a break for a minute, then we'll go eat. And I'm like dead passed out on my couch. The phone rings and it's the editor, and he's like, hey, yeah, we would like to offer you the position of, community editor. And I was like, holy shit. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And I didn't care how much it paid. I didn't care anything. I took it. And I was there for about a year, and I learned a lot. The part of the entertainment started to kick in here. I had a really good friend. He became a friend of mine. He was the editor of the Vision magazine, which was the entertainment magazine of New Mexico, which is hard to believe there is entertainment there. And he was covering a lot of the events that were happening, and the Cumbia Kings, the late great Selena Quintanilla Perez's brother's band, was coming to Roswell. And they said, hey, my friend gave me this story. He's like, do you want to call them and interview them? I was like, yeah. Where's the number? And I got the number. I talked to the manager. I talked to Selena's father for a good 30 minutes. Like, he was just, he's a very intimidating man, but I was a reporter, so he was nice. So he was really cool. And then I ended up talking to Abraham Quintanilla, the second or the third, whichever, I forget, the third, I think. And, leader of the Cumbia Kings band. And we started talking, and yeah, that was like really my first pinch of it. I was like, whoa, I kind of really want to do this. And I was like, should I be an entertainment reporter? Like, I knew the move to San Diego was coming soon, and I just didn't know how, like, that was where it all began really for me. And I interviewed Shooter Jennings, which, believe it or not, I was watching, I think it was Daredevil or The Punisher. He was part of the opening act of that show. I was like, holy shit, I've talked to Shooter. That's cool. And like, just, it's kind of funny, but I talked to quite a few people in the music industry at that time. And then, the order came through. Okay, you're going to San Diego, but you're up in the northern part of San Diego. So I was like, okay, well, we can make it work. And I had a very hard time finding a job here. Like, it took me about 3 months. And I was applying for PR jobs. The funny thing about my degree is that I got it in public relations, but I've never worked in public relations. I was looking for, jobs in that area, couldn't find anything. And I finally got fed up. And if you know me, I'm pretty resilient and I don't really take no very well. And I was like, all right, why won't you hire me? Like, I was an editor for a freaking year. Like, what else do you need from me? Like, I have 2 degrees. Like, what do you need? And she's like, we need experience. You don't have any experience in PR. So go start volunteering, go become an intern. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I said, all right, fine. I swallowed my pride. I started looking for internships, and I found a great one at a marketing agency called Alternative Strategies out in, at the time it was in Mission Valley, owned by William Lopez. And I told William what I was wanting, and he's like, oh, totally. You can come here, work 3 days a week, a couple hours, that's fine. But I was doing such a good job that he's like, I need you here every day. And I said, totally here for it. And he's like, I'll give you gas money to come here. And, and I was driving from Oceanside to San Diego, and that's 40 miles one way. So that's like dedication to the craft. Like, you have to, you had to make some moves to make any period.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, let's do it. So I did that for a while. I started in September, and I actually ended up walking away in December. So I was only there for about 4 months. It just got to a point where I was like, all right, I need more cash than this. Like, $200 is not cutting it anymore. And so I ended up looking through, and I found a job quicker that time around. I think maybe because I had a little bit more of the marketing background. But I fell into marketing, and it just kind of stuck. And I ended up getting a job at a remodeling company, ironically, of all things. And the guy that interviewed me, I was in that interview for 2 hours. And he was like, I think you'd make a great addition here. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Okay. And, I was getting paid a decent wage at the time. And I was like, and I realized when I got into that role of marketing, I knew nothing. I thought I knew stuff. I didn't. And he literally took me under his wing and it's like, all right, you're going to do really well here. And you're going to do this and do that. And this was a guy who really pushed you to be your absolute best. And I really needed that. He ended up becoming a very, very strong thought. What was that? Was that a back echo?
Bad. Just feedback.
Feedback. But he ended up becoming a really big father figure to me. You know, I had lost my father in 2008. And so around 2012, 13, this guy comes in and he, you know, very, very tall, very stoic, very, very smart. And he just, you know, he absolutely gave a shit about me. And I was just surprised because most bosses don't give a fuck about their employees. But it ended up just being a stepping stone into where I was headed into the entertainment aspect. And when I got to San Diego, it was right in May of 2012. So I missed San Diego Comic-Con. I knew San Diego Comic-Con was the big thing to do. And I was like, this will work. I'll make it happen. And I didn't. The tickets were really hard to get. So I was like, all right, we'll wait till next year. And so, you know, I'd been working at that job. And then I finally got, you know, I was able to score a ticket to San Diego Comic-Con on a Sunday, no less, which is the worst day. And I went in there and I was like, oh my God, there's really big brands. Like I really figured out, I've been doing trade shows for remodeling. And I was like, this is basically a trade show for nerds. There's a way I totally get into this. And I saw big companies like Warner Brothers, CBS, Fox, Disney, you know, Lucasfilms, like Lego, Mattel. Like I saw and I was like, wait, they have marketing departments. I could totally get into a marketing department here. And what kind of pissed me off was I was watching this guy. I was after a Power Ranger exclusive, believe it or not, at the time. I didn't know anything about the Power Ranger fandom at that point, but I saw that there was this nerd on YouTube that was getting the exclusives before the Comic-Con, and I was like, there's got to be a way I could do this too. And from there on, I was like, all right. So I started a blog with an unsuspecting name. That blog is long dead, but I used a fake name, a fake picture. It was almost like catfishing now that I think about it, but I didn't want work to know what I was doing. And so I started to write blogs about entertainment, and I started talking to a guy that was in Star Trek Voyager, and I was writing about his projects and everything. And before you knew it, it was like, this guy's like, where are you at? And I was like, I'm in San Diego. And he's like, what, do you have a marketing background? What's the deal? And so we started talking business, and he was like, yo, I need help with my Facebook page. Would you manage my Facebook page? I was like, yeah, I mean, I really do like you. I know your work. It's easy. And he's like, all right, here you go. Here's access. I was like, what the hell? I was like, all right. And so I started working on that. And then right about like 2015, he's like, I'm making a movie. You know, would you want to be a part of it? And I was like, yeah, you know, whatever marketing needs you need, I got it. So we started working on that. And it's kind of funny because my actual start in Hollywood, in LA, was in the Star Trek fandom. And so, you know, I was popping in on lives. Like he came down and he stayed with me at my house so we could promote the film. Like I never thought I'd have an actor staying in my house of all places. And we just went out and promoted the project. And, you know, it was a really cool thing to like, people started to know me on that side. And the project ended up, you know, being about the Comic-Con, the history of the Comic-Con. And he was like, we're shooting a trailer in LA. You want to come? And I was like, sure. I go in there. There's a lot of Star Trek alum in there. And I'm talking like Walter Koenig, Robert Beltran, like, who else was in there? Armin Shimmerman, Quark from Deep Space Nine. I'm like, holy shit, there's Quark. Like it was just like, it was one of those things where I told my partner in crime, I was like, dude, do not geek out. We are not fans. We're here working. And that was one thing that we try to like set in stone, that we're not fans. We want to be taken seriously. And so we would walk in and just treat them like any other person. And it kind of blew up from that. And so we started going out to Comic-Cons in the area to promote this project. And we stumbled upon the Power Rangers fandom at the end of 2015. And that's when we met Austin St. John at LA Comic-Con. And we talked to him. I'd been talking to another ranger, and I had actually met that ranger for the first time. We'd been talking for about a year, and I had met him in person at LA Comic-Con. So that was kind of like the start of it. That ranger that I had been talking to was really one of the first ones. Him and Austin were really like the true people that kind of launched me into the fandom. And it's just weird, but we ended up in the fandom. And I noticed, I think my partner in crime was one that said, hey, Austin needs help with social media. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, they're looking for street team captains. I was like, I don't know what that is. And I looked at the description, and it sounded like a job application. And I was like, does he need someone to manage his, I really didn't understand the concept. And so I ended up applying for it. It ended up being like basically a group of people. It's almost like a pod, if you think about it. I don't know if you heard of those Facebook pods, but it's basically a big group of fans that comes in, and anytime the actor posts anything, you have to share it to all your channels. And then at that point, people were really diligent about making sure you're sharing your stuff. And I was like, man, this is not what I wanted to do. Like, it was not what I was planning on doing. I was like, well, okay, well, whatever. I really like Austin, so I'm going to keep doing it. And we would do meetings, and, I met the New York crew out of that entire thing. And then we did Paramorphicon 2016. So I got to do some line management and, basic stuff. And I was like, well, this is fun. But what I was really seeing was like, in true Martha fashion, I was just like, there's got to be another way to help out and to also help myself grow as a marketer. And I was like, there's got to be another way. Because I've seen people that were working with these people, and I'm like, they have no experience in this field. And I'm sitting here like analyzing things, and I'm like, I could totally do that better. So I ended up, it wasn't like I was set out to do it. It kind of just happened. So I had the ranger that I was talking to prior to meeting Austin was like, hey, I really need some help with marketing. And I was like, all right, well, what do you need? He's like, I kind of want to do what, all these other people are doing, because the team thing was like popular at the time. I think everyone was on a team at some point. He's like, I want one of those for me. And I was like, all right. So we did it. And then another ranger saw that I was doing this. And ironically, the recommendation came from Brazil. And these girls they tagged this ranger that was asking about it. And they were like, call her. She's the one who's doing it. She's the one who's in charge of this. Next thing you know, my childhood crush, the glorious Justin Nemo, hits me up in the DMs. Like, he slid into the DMs real cute. He's like, hey, I hear you're the girl that's doing this. I was like, yeah. And he's like, I want one of those. And I thought it was a joke, because when I started doing these things, you have to understand, I walked into a territory and kind of just took over. And people, like, the hate that I got, people were sending me DMs, like, just saying, who the hell do you think you are? You are nobody. Why are you doing this? Like, I still have the receipts. One of these days I'm going to write a book and they're going to be in there. No joke. We'll change the name so I don't get sued. But I thought it was a joke, because that message came through at a time where I was like, it could be anybody at this point. I'm thinking, all right, who has access to this guy's account? And I was like, I don't know if I really feel comfortable talking to you about this. And he was like, well, let's have a phone call. And I was like, all right. And we got on the phone, and I, verified everything. And I was like, all right, this looks legit. And went forward. And then it just spawned off into multiple things. And then at Paramorphicon 2016 is where I met this girl that knew what I was doing. And so she aligned me with an agent that also needed marketing help, because, a lot of actors don't do their own social media. I don't know if you know that. They hire somebody to do it for them. They have someone else interacting on their behalf. And this agent was like, I need someone to manage this. I was like, okay. So I was doing all this for free, might I add. So I was doing a 9 to 5 and I was doing this stuff for free on the side. And so, you know, my boss at the home improvement company was like, you know, you totally have the guts to do this. I think you'll make it. And he was like, we'll figure out a way to get you there. So he was nourishing this entire thing. And so it was pretty cool. And then eventually he ended up leaving and retiring, and we kept in touch after he left. And I went off to another company and working the 9 to 5, and then I would go home and work on the side stuff. And then it just built up and built up. And then this agent was like, hey, I need you to fly out to the show. And I'm like, what? Why? And she's like, I need you in my behalf. So then the traveling started. So, of course, once you start elevating and going up the ladder, people are like, again, who the fuck do you think you are? And, you know, I was like, I have a really solid foundation here. I can totally build off of this. And so around 2016, I was like, we need to come up with a name for my side hustle because I don't know what it is. Like, what do we call it? And my partner in crime was the one who came up with the name MDMC because I wanted to use my name in a way. And so like the Martha D part is the MD, and then the MC is marketing consultant, if you get it. And then in entertainment, because we wanted people to know we did marketing and public relations in entertainment so that we would be viable enough to get business. And that's kind of how it happened. It was just like all the really good ideas came from other people, just like this podcast or this web series we're doing today. This came from Marc. And we were like, all right, we can start, you know, charging people for services here and there. And then it just grew and grew. So this was a side hustle for almost 5 years. And it wasn't until the end of 2018, 19, that I hit a very difficult part of my life. Marc, you remember all that, right? You know, life really grabbed the rug out from under me and said, you know what, you're off of this path. And I struggled for a long time trying to figure out what to do. And people that had known me, I had already, you know, in the entertainment world, people knew that I was doing MDMC entertainment on the side. And when everything went to hell, they were like, this is your time to focus on your business. And I was like, no, I need a paycheck. I need to figure out what the hell I'm doing. You know, like I can't just not have a paycheck. What am I going to fucking do? And so I focused like 233 days on finding a job. It took me 7 months to find my job. And I think right around in between that time, I was like, I almost, around this time last year, I was like, you know what, maybe they're right. Maybe just focus on MDMC. Let me just get this, you know, we got to figure out, you know, make friends with photographers. Let's, you know, we need to get some art going. We need to, you know, and try to really rebrand and relaunch. And then I got my last job that I had in July of 2019. And that was the job that really changed everything for me because it was, I don't know. And I still wonder why I got that job. Because, you know, when you get into a job and you realize you're like, this ain't going to work, but you also need the money. So you're just like, fuck it. We're going to keep this job until we can figure out what we're doing. That's really what happened to me. I got into this job with someone who was not smart. Yes.
Person.
She was a very cruel person. Basically, I think the straw that broke the camel's back was we were pitching an idea, you know, as marketing strategists, what would we do different? So basically, when I draw up a plan, I look at what's working and what isn't. I really drew it out completely. I really put in a lot of thought into it and started looking into avenues that we weren't doing. Really thought out plan. I presented it. And after I did, she was like, well, this sucks. And I was like, I worked like 3 hours on this thing. Like, what do you mean it sucked? Tell me what happened. Why does it suck? And then she went on to say why it wouldn't work and this and that. She's like, I just don't think you're a good marketing strategist. And, you know, at that point, for some reason, I just could not step to this girl. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because I was scared to lose my job and I needed the money. But at that point, I was like, no, I've done this before. You know, I've been in marketing for almost, I think at that point it was like 5 years, 6 years. And I said, I've done a similar plan. This will work. And she's like, well, you're always stuck in the past. I'm like, well, that's where I got my experience. Where am I supposed to be? And I realized at that point, I said, maybe this is why I had to get this job, because I had to see what a shitty leader was to make sure I wouldn't end up like that. Because everything about like the office space and like what this person was doing was very similar to kind of what I wanted to do and what I envisioned. But maybe the point of that was to show me like not to be that type of boss. And I was like, yeah, when you make it on your own, don't act this way. And fortunately for me, I ended up getting let go in October of 2019. And it was probably one of the greatest days of my life. And I don't say that often because I was actually let go from another job, but that was the one that I was really like pulled out from under, like had no reason, no nothing. But this one was like, this was agony, like, you know, not being able to get out of bed in the morning, not being able to really, I don't know, just weren't happy to go to work. And so when she let me go, I was like, great, you know, and my parting words were like, I did not fit in this crazy box you're trying to fit in. Peace. And so at that point, I was like, all right, let's push MDMC. I had already been working on stuff. I was already, you know, getting ready to, you know, work further. And I kid you not, a week later, I got a really big client out of Dallas. And this girl hit me up and she's like, I didn't know you did marketing. I'm launching 2 businesses. And she was like, here's what I need. And I said, I could totally do it. She gave me a deposit that day. And I was like, well, thank God I'll make the rent this month. And I was like, I can do this. And so we took off. I worked for a whole month on her stuff. And then I think at the beginning of December, I went up to LA and I told everybody, I am here to work for myself 100%, my business, my terms. And they were like, great. They started handing out my stuff. And then a big client came mid-December. And then here I am. Like, it's just, I've been very fortunate that even during what we're going into next, the pandemic, I still have people that are requesting stuff. And, you know, we had a very big plan going into 2020, but the pandemic screwed it up. But that is how MDMC came to fruition. I know that took me 30 minutes to tell that story, but I left out some really other thing, like juicy tidbits that I will save for another day. But that's just of it overall.
Well, that's just the great teaser, the great teaser of it, because, you know, the history of the company from the birth of to now,
Mm-hmm.
it really tells you that you know what you wanted to do. And I mean, I saw that talent in you when we were in school.
You've been stalking me for a very long time on Facebook for a long time, after, even during school.
But no, you know, everything that they went ahead and did. I mean, I remember a certain professor who will go unnamed, where you and I were sitting next to each other, and she trashed your work.
Was that the presentation?
What?
Was it the presentation of the company that I made? Or something else?
I think it was a design class.
Oh, okay. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
And we were sitting next to each other, and I'm looking at it going like, that's not bad at all. I like that.
Mm.
And she just like trashed you. And I'm just like, I'm looking at mine going like, mine sucks. Yours doesn't.
Yo, I've had naysayers all my life. I've been a freaking fighter all my life. I was actually telling that to my partner in crime the other day. I said, you know, I fight for a lot of the injustices that I've faced or that I see people facing. Like, you know, I'm one of those people, I don't back down from a fight. I'm always fighting for something. And that teacher in general was a very big fight that the following year you missed it. But I did this I did my internship in Santa Fe. I was a legislative assistant up there. My neighbor, I didn't know how important my neighbor was because I live in a really nice neighborhood in Roswell, but he was the minority whip for the House of Representatives. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. I was like, oh, you sound fancy. I don't know what that means. Then I got there and I was like, oh, you're like really important. Shit. But anyway, I got this. I got this internship. I went up there. I told all the teachers. I got Doc Elder. I don't even know where he's at, but he was the comm chair at the time. He signed off on it. He's like, yes, go ahead and do it. And on top of that, because I was doing the internship, I had to make sure I was an overload student on my last semester. I was trying to cram everything in so I can graduate. And he signed off on everything. And so when I took off to do that internship, I came back in March and that teacher wasn't giving me my assignments. And I was like, so what am I supposed to do? And she was like, don't worry about it. We'll just figure it out. And I'm like, okay. And then we got this assignment to do, like to create a company, a marketing plan and everything. And I had no direction on it whatsoever. I had seen a couple presentations and I was like, oh, I can totally do this. And I knocked it out of the park. Like I think my colors were like black and silver. It was like a shoe company. Like I was designing these really cool things. It was like a luxury brand. I had printed it on I printed my plan on sparkly cardstock, silver. I still have it. I found it when I was cleaning out my stuff. It was stunning. It was bound. Like I made little like shopping bags. I was right before spring break. I spray painted handbags and I had like tissue paper specific. I had little like shoes inside of it. Inside had a silver label with my company name. Like I went above and beyond. It was fantastic. I got a D for that project. I went to my advisor, the wonderful Dr. Dobson, and I was like, she's like, you got a D? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I read everything. I saw everything. How did you get a D? And I said, you're my advisor. I don't know, advise. And yeah, and the grade came back a different grade after that. Oh, good times.
Yeah.
I'll have to find it. I actually still have one of those shoe bags that I made. I'll have to show you what it was because this was after you had already graduated.
Yeah. Basically, when I graduated, I was just like, am I done? Good. Mail me my stuff.
That's a great segue, Mark. Now, I know when we did LAX Fan Fest, people were asking who you were. So take it away and introduce yourself to the lovely people.
Well, I got my start when I started into the media world in general. I started in journalism. And then obviously doing a lot of freelance work, being on staff of a few papers, I came to realize that journalism doesn't pay that well.
No. I found that out pretty quick too.
Yeah. And I figured, I wanted to do something else.
Right.
But, but I always learned that I always asked the question is why. Like I would sit there and I would watch the news, because I've been a news junkie since, God, I was in high school, I think, actually, and I wanted to. I kept sitting there saying, but why is that? And that was the constant question. And then once I started really working in the field and going, I'm like, $25,000 a year to be a staff writer on a paper? No.
Man.
Yeah, and it just wasn't worth it. So I kind of looked at my other options and I went, why not go into public relations?
Right.
And I stumbled into a lot of different things. I mean, that's really how I got into marketing and public relations.
Right.
I ended up doing, when I first decided to go back to school, because I went back as a non-traditional student,
Right.
and I was like, well, okay. So I started looking around online. I was working in the call center in Albuquerque, which is now closed,
Right.
and I was on my break and I'm searching. I'm like, and I was looking. I'm like, Eastern offered me a full ride the first time around when I
Yeah.
graduated from high school, and I went, okay, fair enough. I was like, let me apply there again.
Yeah.
I applied, and I basically gave up my entire work life
Yeah.
to move to Portales.
Sorry.
I'm I'm a big city boy,
Yeah. Me
so
too.
going going from living in the Albuquerque area to Portales, it was kind of like, I'm like, really?
To paint the picture, you guys that don't know, because most of you are watching from various areas, Portales is a farming town. It's the population is 10,000, and I've always driving into the town. I always wonder if they counted the school population in that number or not. But there's nothing there. You've got a couple gas stations, a Burger King, and a Sonic, and then it's off to Clovis. It's very isolated.
Well, they also have a bar next to the university now.
There's a bar.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's an upgrade, guys.
There was, and it was along Highway 70 near what was a Dollar General.
Mm.
And the thing is that the people at the university are genuine as all get out.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who actually care.
Right.
Um,
Shout out to Dr. Dobson, who still cares.
Hoorah! But it's with Dobson, for example, she started as, and then she started where she was and then worked her way up.
Yeah.
And then the fact that she's the department chair now,
That's
that by itself is amazing.
I'm half tempted to move back home and go get my master's through ENMU, just so I can take a class with her again. I'm half tempted to do that.
Watch, after this, you're gonna get a Facebook message from her.
I think, and I'm not kissing ass or anything. There are definitely teachers, there are people in our lives that guide us in a way that you don't really know. I think elementary school, I can tell you, Cheryl Rumbaugh was my 6th grade teacher. She told me I could do it after I had my mom. It did not help that my mom worked at the elementary school I was at because they hated her too. But I had some really bitchy teachers, and that woman came in as an outsider, completely told me I could make it, totally did it. Mr. Richard Kimbrell, who I met my partner in crime with, my journalism teacher, my English teacher, he's one that really helped me with that area as well. Cindy Anderson was the Business Professionals of America teacher that got me on my first plane ride ever to do competitions, do these things. And in college, Patty Dobson, that really I remember when my dad died, I felt bad because I had a presentation that day that he died. And I was like, I have it. I couldn't email it for some reason. I was in the hospital. I couldn't email it, but I was like, it's done. And I'm really sorry. I'm not going to be there. And I have the big chunk of the load. I don't think my team got punished for it because it was just one of those acts of God, but she helped me get through that part. And even through the internship the following year. And when I got a D for a project, that was definitely a worthy project. And I think she had a say in me getting the award of best undergrad student in public relations. I think she had something to do with it. Not gonna lie. So props to Patty Dobson. She's one of those standout people that molds maybe in an unsuspecting way has molded who we have become today. Now, I don't know if you feel that strong, Mark, but that's she's in my heart.
No, she's definitely one of those people who is an absolutely amazing influence. And you got to realize that with what we do as a company, basically we sit there and we actually show what we want to do in relation to what's in the best interest of the client.
Well, I mean, she showed us Shattered Glass. Like, you remember that journalism movie with Hayden Christensen, Shattered Glass, where the guy made up all these stories and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, so like seeing that like scared me straight. I was like, I never want to get involved in something like that. And just making sure that you had the right ethics to do the right thing, like that shook me. I don't know why it did, but it shook me to the core. And I was like, you could lose your career if you don't do things the right way. And that's one of the reasons why, and I think that's one of the reasons why my prices are so low. Because I feel bad, like I kind of don't want to charge too much, but at the same time I'm trying to help people. Like, I don't know, I think that you nailed it on the head with that, because it's it's important.
Right. And that's the biggest thing, is that as long as you're able to sit there and show that what we're doing is in the best interest of the client, and we're going to sit there and explain why.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to sit there and say, you should do this, and just leave it at that.
Oh, no.
You sit there and you basically say, what are you going to be able to do in relation to, it's like, you should do this, and this is why.
Yeah, no,
it's going to cost you X price, and this is the reason why it's going to cost you X price.
Right.
And you want to be able to make sure that with the, obviously you want to do everything on the up and up.
Right.
Ethics is a big thing. You're not going to sit there and, promise one thing and then find out that it's going to be something else.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's really where a lot of people, don't necessarily understand,
Mm-hmm.
what is how you operate versus now versus back before, let's say, the pandemic.
Right.
And with the pandemic, obviously, a lot of people, this caught them off guard.
Yeah.
And you just sit there. I mean, there are people who don't necessarily, they believe it's a hoax, but is it? That's going to be depending totally on your opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, people are scared. People are losing jobs. Clientele, there are clients that will cut back.
Yeah.
Because they believe that, they believe that a marketing budget is the easiest thing to cut versus anything else.
That's a topic that we have on the list for something else. Like, we can't. Oh my God, budgeting. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is that a lot of people, a lot of people are eliminating it or severely cutting it.
Mm-hmm. which is
And
the dumbest thing you can do, hands down.
I mean, obviously we've had, clients in, the travel industry, for example.
Mhm.
um, you know, online retail has obviously expanded because people are afraid to go out.
Yeah.
I mean, look at companies like Amazon. Amazon's making money hand over fist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like they've always been ahead of the curve. I think their strategies have always been, I mean, if anyone could be prepared for a pandemic, it'd be Amazon. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's absolutely correct. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, with the different businesses that I've worked in and I've run, you know, obviously you have to be able to flip on a dime,
Yeah.
because if you can't sit there and if you keep the same course and don't deviate as the market um, changes, that's really where the problem's going to be for most businesses.
For sure. I was talking to oh God, I have family in Alamogordo, and I think we said this in the teaser the other day. But these are older companies, especially in New Mexico. There's a lot of mom and pop shops that are older. They're the baby boomer age. Okay. And so when it comes to business, like they are mostly known for doing storefront stuff. When the pandemic hit, they didn't know how to adapt and they didn't know what to do. And a lot of these people freak out and then they close their shop. Right? They didn't know how to adapt well enough to be like, okay, we should probably move this to online. I would have been offering if I'd have been offering curbside stuff, I would have gotten my website up, but a lot of people, whether they're just they take the path of least resistance in life, or they just, they're not as proactive, or maybe they just flat out don't know what to do, folded their business. Like,
Well, and I've run into that myself, because there have been businesses that even that are healthcare related,
mm-hmm.
that basically they'll postpone business for a little bit, and then you'll find out that even medical related, that'll just fold.
Well, thank God, we were actually planning on going live with this show 2 weeks ago, but I had a root canal that needed to be done. It took thank God the dentist was open, because they were actually only taking emergency cases, but there was a steady flow of people. I guess a lot of people had emergencies. Adapting your business to that model, and it sucks because yes, you will have to let go of people in the time being, but at least find a way to mold your business in a way that you'll still make money, but you won't take that much of a drastic hit. I have a local diner. I have my brunch spot. It's a family-owned business. When the pandemic hit, they had their back stock of toilet paper that they weren't going to be using. They had paper towels that they weren't going to be using. They had these industrial-sized soap. They were sectioning off the stuff, and they put it in their parking lot. They're like, all right, you guys, if you guys can't find this in the stores, you can come here and get it. Selling toilet paper roll for like $2, or whatever. Selling soap for like $6, decent size, And I said, this is a diner. This is a place that wasn't even they weren't even worried about their food at the time. They're like, here, we have all this stuff. We'll figure out food when we can figure out regulations. And so people were going and supporting them. And the fact of the matter is that when you have, and these people were smart, because they did have their social media channels, they had their stories, they were constantly keeping people in the loop. And I think a lot of businesses, even the ones I work with or have worked with in the past, have a very low efficiency rate when it comes to keeping people in the loop, you know? And I think, especially when it comes to like the older generation, like they believe that, you know, social media isn't the end all be all. It's like, we don't need social media. Or they have that one person that's like, we have a Facebook page, we're good. Just because you have a Facebook page does not mean you're a marketing expert. There goes a lot more into it than you think.
It's called consistent posting. It's called deviating your content, being able to show that, showing the human aspect of the business.
Right. A lot of companies have a hard time doing that. The first company I was at, the first remodeling company I was at, they didn't have a human element. It was just like, hey, there's a picture of a pretty bathroom. Here's a pretty kitchen. I'm like, well, who the hell? Why would anyone hire you? We don't know who you are. We're the people. And I remember having like pulling teeth when marketing and sales gets together. They don't get together and play well. I don't know if you've had the same situation, Mark, but I remember this was my first gig out of an internship. And I'm like, all right, sales, let's take a picture right here. They're like, I don't want my picture on the internet. And these are baby boomer age, maybe a little bit younger than that. I don't want my picture on the internet. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And so what ended up happening was we had a younger designer come in. And I was like, you know, she's a little bit younger than me. And I was like, hey, go over here and stand by this kitchen. I'm going to take your picture and put it on Facebook. She's like, okay. And then like we started doing videos with her. And then before you know it, the clientele is coming in asking for so-and-so. And all the other designers are like, well, that's not fair. She's new. And I'm like, you know why it's not fair? Is because she went on Facebook. Like she let us take pictures of her. Now she's on Facebook. Now people know who she is. Brand recognition along with adding that familiarity, adding that comfort, adding that, you know, someone you can relate to. Because everything else looks stagnant and boring. No one cares. If you can make a connection with people, they will end up trusting your brand more with those that don't have anything. Like, why would I buy anything from you? And so when her sales go up, everyone else is like, well, that's messed up. You're giving her the better leads. No, she's being requested. You know, and I think adding that human element is the biggest thing you can do for any brand, and that goes in any industry. If you know what I mean. I think, you know, even in travel agencies, you know, adding that testimonial about, you know, why this travel agent was good to work with, that video that no one reads anymore. This is why I took so long to talk about MDMC, because I've talked about all of this and people are still confused as to who we are. People don't read. People like videos. And so when we started doing videos like that, it generates that interest and it makes that connection. Boom. Human interest. Connection.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand that fact, where the business itself isn't necessarily because I'll give you a perfect example. Travel agencies. A lot of people, you know, there are benefits to using travel agencies or travel advisors to help you book a vacation.
Yeah.
You know, one of those things is a lot of people don't realize that there are things that travel advisors know that even if you went and booked it online by yourself, you're not going to necessarily find the right thing.
Right.
You know, the thing is that there may be things that, you know, that, for example, the travel advisor knows somebody at a particular property.
Right.
And you're like, and they can call that person at that property and go, hey, I got a client coming in. Can you give them X, Y, and Z? You know, and lo and behold, boom, they get X, Y, and they give X, Y, and Z because it's the added value to it. Because a lot of things will end up, you know, showing how they actually benefit the client. On the flip side of it, let's say you book that same trip by yourself. Who says you're going to get that special treatment at that resort or whatever?
Right.
You know, with doing it on your own. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, there are fees associated with travel agencies, but in the end all, you end up having um, you get a bigger bang for your buck if you do it correctly.
Right. Hmm. Totally true. I think, adding that exclusivity, people love feeling, or feeling that entitlement type of exclusivity that most people don't get. And I think in that industry, because, a lot of the older gen, again, don't know what to do when they're doing that. So offering that type of service and paying a little bit more for that, I think it is worth it. Um, and I think that's a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people think that way. A lot of people just think whatever's cheap, and usually whatever's cheap sucks. And
That's
so
true.
you want a good quality service, something that you're gonna, yeah, you paid a little bit more for it, but what was the overall quality? That's one of the reasons why I tell people to totally invest in local businesses, like support them as much as you possibly can. Those mom and pop shops, yeah, you're gonna pay a little more for for example, my brunch spot. My partner in crime and I used to go all the time before. We were on a trend there for a while until my life kind of turned upside down, and I haven't been back as consistently because but I was paying a good like $50 for brunch. I would buy, their coffee was priced a little bit higher than Starbucks, like gourmet coffee. So I would buy that, and then I'd buy like my brunch, and it was $50 well worth it, and that's what you got to think about it that way. It's like you're supporting local people that are out doing what they love. They've made their way for themselves, and they're doing what they love. So why not support it?
Exactly. And the thing is that a lot of people aren't necessarily understanding that. You
Yeah.
could go to um, any of the drugstore chains and buy one thing, but you're supporting. Yeah, you're keeping people employed, but the thing is when it comes down to it, if you go to a local mom and pop shop,
Mm-hmm.
which I give you an example. That's one of the things I did the other day is, instead of ordering something on Amazon, I went to a local shop and a collectible store and ordered more and got more supplies
Right.
because the same idea of, yeah, that drive is a 40-minute drive to this shop,
Mm-hmm.
but I but when you're paying $15 versus 35 because of all the gouging that's going on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of go like, it's like, all right, I'd rather support a local guy anyway and save a little bit of cash.
Yeah. Um, it's just weird. Like I've worked. Ugh, it's like a. I don't know. Hold on. How am I going to phrase this? Because I've worked for small businesses, and I have I have not had some of the best experience. Like I understand where people are coming from with you know creating a space for themselves and making money and doing their own thing. And some bosses are fantastic and they will take care of their people, but I've been in small businesses where they don't take care of their best people. And I try not to think of it that way, because these are small businesses that eventually turn into multi-million-dollar companies. um the mom and pops are not in the multi-million-dollar companies. And let's verify, like the bigger, smaller businesses are a little bit more greedy when it comes to, you know, the mom and pops that are like just grateful that to have in business. And, you know, like we're not in the millions yet. You know, it'll probably take us 10 years to get to the millions. But, you know, I appreciate small businesses now more than ever because, and I guess because I'm living it now, you know, and you're living it too. Like, you know, what we do has to be on point so that we can keep it being fed. Like our entire livelihoods are on our shoulders now. And that's, I think, and this is another, I have another topic, you know, entrepreneurs for the fuck of it. That's really what I wrote it out as because I was going to write about it. But there are a lot of people out there that I think it's this Instagram world has painted the picture that entrepreneurs are living a fantastic life with Lambos and yachts and they're on vacation all the time. But yeah, you don't know what their business is. And that is so far from the truth. You know, like I can slap on the title now. I am an entrepreneur now, but that means I'm providing for myself now. And that means that all the work that I throw out into the world better be good to ensure that I get a paycheck the following month. And I think a lot of the small mom and pop shops are in the same boat because they are just as small. They're trying to make sure they keep their rent open. They, you know, that they can pay their rent for their facilities, that they can provide food for their families, and they can also, you know, pay their employees. You know, I don't think people really understand how much money goes into that until you actually live it. You know, like, you know, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, you know, like directions. I want to take my own business myself, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. Like, yeah, that's a lot. Like, you really start to put into perspective that it's not an Instagram worthy world. It's real life, and you gotta really make sure that, you know, you can keep your people happy so they keep coming back so that you can get fed.
Right, and that goes to the idea of repeat customers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're building lists, you know, mailing lists, for example, which goes back to one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm building mailing. I'm working on building one of my mailing lists.
Right.
I'm not exactly done with sending, configuring the email I want to send out, but
Right.
I have a list of people. I mean, I figure for the collectibles business I run, I think I've got about 450, 500 people on that list. Yeah. And whether or not people actually take to it, who knows? But I'm still working on it.
Well, and I also think it goes back to reputation. I remember when when I first went out on my own, my previous boss I think this video was directed towards me. It may not be. I might be reaching, but, you know, there was a thing out there that said, you know, why are people trusting these pop-up agencies that have no testimonials, that have no proof that they can do what they can do, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, I don't need testimonials. You know how I'm surviving is reputation, you know, referrals. All of MDMC entertainment is based on referrals. You know, like right now I'm about to close another deal with somebody, so close, with someone who has just built me up to the nth degree, being like, this girl knows what she's doing. This is what she's done for me. Like he's providing the proof for his friend. Like I don't have to do it. I just have to show up. And, you know, I did an analysis. I'm like, this is what I think you need to do. And I don't charge for analysis, by the way. Someone else had told me someone was charging like $800 to do an analysis before. That's not even a setup cost. I was like, don't pay $800 for an analyst. Like, the hell. But I don't have to do the work to show or to get that referral. I mean, I do the work for that person. But, you know, I think it's easier to get referral business than it is to getting new business. Because, like, one of the things right now is you have to prove to all the people out there that you are the real deal. As to where in a referral, you're busting your ass to make sure that person's happy. That's how you get more business. I don't think people get that either.
Well, that's true. I mean, especially when building, um, you know, the businesses you have, um, you know, email lists are becoming more important.
Yeah.
Uh, Instagram stories are becoming more important. You're doing everything that you possibly can in order to, you know, garner that business, garner that trust. It comes back to the idea of if they like you and they trust you, they will do business with you.
Yep. For sure. 100%.
I learned that from a gentleman who I swear to God, this is when I was first starting out in my own business. The guy, nice guy as all get out. He lives in, I think, South Carolina or North Carolina, one of those two now.
Hmm.
But he, it was like you listen to him talk and you're just like, yes, yes, you know, and, and, and you know, it's like you got that motivation. And I told him, I said, dude, you should be a preacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's funny because like the mentor that I had at my last company, the first remodeling company I was at, um, he was the one that aligned me with a colleague of mine who I'm working with now, and his daughter, who was the salesperson that was, making the money because she got on, she showed her face on social media. But this man, like, he believed I could be like amazing. Like he believed, like you. I don't think people really understand how powerful words are. And this guy, like, every time I talk to him, he like, I could touch the fucking moon if I wanted to. Like after talking to him, like just building me up and saying, look, you have what it takes. I've seen your work. You can do this. You can do that. And that built me up. I felt like, I could crash through a wall and be fine. And if it wasn't for him, I would not have made the relationships I made today. I got referred for a really great job, like a really great client, because I worked with this guy that my mentor introduced me to. And that's going to turn into probably another stream of money coming through. And then his daughter, who ended up being an entrepreneur herself, made a fantastic company, ended up selling it to a huge company that she ended up being the sales manager for. And now I get to do the marketing for that company as well. And that goes into networking. And that goes into not only that, but that is your social proof that your work ethic, and if you continue to produce high quality things, those opportunities will come to you. I don't think people know that either.
and you're right. Again, you're right. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily show, you know, they think it's a matter of how much you're going to actually do
Mm-hmm.
versus, um, what you can, I mean, the thing is that you really can't sit there and try to fake it.
No, I've
You,
seen
you,
I've seen people fake it, and I'm just like, no one. And this is why marketing plans don't work, because you're faking it. No one believes you.
mhm. For example,
Sorry.
in here, if I can,
Mark knows who I'm talking about.
I have an idea. Yes, you know, one of the things that I worked on for the collectibles business
Yeah.
is this marketing plan. You know, in relation to with a a thing that you designed.
Oh gosh.
You
Yeah.
know, where
Show it.
basically, yes, this puppy right here. You know, the thing is that this is basically a how-to guide to do it right.
I did not make that available to the public, Mark, because I used your company as an example. I didn't know how you would feel if I basically went in with a red marker and tore apart his stuff, and I felt really bad when I sent it to him. But I felt bad, but at the same time, I'm like, you have the potential to be better. I'm going to show you how you're going to be better. And so I kind of thought of that when I hit send, but I was like, oh, he's going to hate me. Like, he's never going to call me again.
But the thing was, is that I read through it and I looked at it and I went, you're right.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, and the thing is that, if, we can design, MDMC can design plans like this for everybody else, and where basically you look through it and you can sit there and find what is actually going to, benefit your particular business.
Yeah, and I do that with clients all the time. I actually go through, and when I do an analysis, it goes through. It's like Facebook, like Instagram, like it's the social media stuff, and then it's the marketing stuff, and then it's the operations stuff. So we're not just looking at Facebook pages and saying how they could be better. We're actually doing an in-depth dive of the operations process, the sales process, the lead gathering process, all of the systems that they have in place, and looking into it and tweaking it to make it better so that they can get more results.
Well, and it's kind of like, for example, a lot of with the collectibles business that I have, I relied on a lot of local people before the pandemic.
Right.
But I had also thought about expanding my online presence even before it. Basically, the pandemic just sped it up.
Yep.
And it was just like, okay, fine. I'm going to do it this way.
Well, and that's another thing, I do work with a lot of people in entertainment. The entertainment world completely stopped. And that, I had people hitting me up saying, oh, I'm so sorry your company took a major hit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, entertainment stopped. And I was like, no. You don't understand what I do. I do marketing for the entertainment industry and beyond that. That's one of the reasons why entertainment and beyond is our tagline. And thank God that I'm not just stuck in the entertainment world, because then I'd be screwed. And that's what I mean about making sure that your business is adaptable in those types of ways. Like, I work with a lot of small businesses. Thank God, some of these people have still been able to stay afloat, and we didn't take that much of a hit. I mean, we did, but, it wasn't as bad as other people out there. We're still producing content for people, whether it's free, whether it's a commission, whether it's, an IOU, whatever. We're still producing something for somebody. And I said to a lot of agents, I said, you're not booking talent right now. And I don't know how long it's going to be till you can start booking talent, but where's the website you always wanted to do? Where are you fixing your lists? Like this was the time, and it still is. I don't know. California's slowly opening back up. I don't know how it is in New Mexico, but this is the time.
We're slowly getting there. It's just a matter of basically, ironically, the governor's supposed to speak here in about an hour or so.
Okay. Well, we'll be done in time so you can see your talk, but we had a solid mid-March to now. That's 2.5 months to really sit there and look at your business and do all the things you've always wanted to do. Like we've always wanted, I've always wanted to do some sort of series on YouTube. I knew that we needed to work on more content because I myself am busy with other people's stuff. If it wasn't for Marc pushing me to be like, we need more content, we need this, we need that. Because if you notice the MDMC Instagram account and Facebook and all the other social medias, like I post maybe 3 times a week, which is bad. I should, but I'm too busy making sure everyone else is successful before I am. So, adding this element and video, because again, no one reads, adding this element is also very crucial for us because now people know who we are, what we do, and what we talk about. I think we offer value. I don't think people know about it. And so, but this is the time, this is the crucial time. You have a little bit more time before everything opens up to sit there and look at all the things you want to do for your business and get them off the ground now before it's too late. Because we're never going to, hopefully not. I know there's supposed to be another wave of this coronavirus coming through, but we have never had this much downtime in our lives. We have slowed down so that we can get our house in order before we take off again. And then when we take off again, we're going to be more successful.
And that's exactly right. I mean, a lot of businesses right now don't necessarily, know what specifically to do. I mean, the collectibles business I had to immediately pivot.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that it changed the inventory that I bought. It changed the it changed the platforms I use. There was a local auction house that's about to fold that I use that I would send out. I would send out pallets worth of stuff to sell.
Wow.
And I can't do that anymore.
Wow.
And so, am I worried about it? No. I have the platforms that I've got working for me, plus, Instagram with the sales that I run, the other stuff. I mean, my collectibles business is a beta testing ground for what we can actually do.
Right.
We can help other resellers, for example, build up their business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's tons of Facebook groups out there that will sit there and say, you should do it this way.
Right.
That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
You basically, like with an e-commerce business, you have to keep listing inventory. You have to keep your social media up. You have to update your mailing list. You have to constantly evaluate your pricing structures.
A lot of people don't understand the value of an email. Like the email marketing campaigns can, especially during this time, can keep people running. You can show off your promos. You can show off new inventory. Like, people aren't utilizing their emails as effectively as they should be.
And that's the biggest thing, is that a lot of people I've been sitting there gathering emails from people who bought from me in the past. Mm-hmm. And that's how I've been able to amass the list I've got. I mean, I sat there last night and I was pulling out email addresses for the last month of stuff that people have bought.
That's good.
I mean, and now that I'm hoping in the next day or so I can start sending out an email, launching it to my website to take it away from eBay, or from like places like eBay, so I can actually lower my costs versus paying 15-16% total fees for eBay per item.
Right.
And a lot of people don't necessarily realize that. Is that basically you have to be diversified. You have to have the multiple platforms, especially with the business. And it goes for any business, actually.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, the curbside the curbside pickup. Basically, if a person knows what they want, they can call them up and go, yeah, I need X, Y, and Z. Tell me how much it is. And they'll be like, oh. So drive down there, go pick it up, hand them the credit card, be done.
And it's funny because my mom made it a point. She's like, you need to tell somebody this. I was like, okay, Mom, I'm starting a web series tomorrow. And she was complaining about, and this is going into an industry you and I probably know nothing about, but the food industry, Golden Corral. And if you're in the New Mexico area, you know how bomb Golden Corral is. But they're saying now, they barely opened one up in California. Well, I remember I was going up to like LA to do signings and stuff. I'd stop at the Golden Corral just because I wanted to eat the steak and shrimp. And they barely opened one here in the North San Diego area. And so that's been my spot because it reminds me of home. But with this pandemic, they're saying now that, the buffet style thing is out the window. And my mom is like, you need to tweet somebody or something and tell them to move it back to like Fur's cafeteria the way they did it, where that's just a serving mechanism that they do it themselves. No one has to touch anything else. It's just the servers who are covered and protected. And I'm like, yeah, but are they going to do that? Like, I can't convince, unless maybe we do convince Golden. Maybe, can you imagine if we convince Golden Corral to change their ways? Maybe we can get a new client. But it's, yeah, I know, right? Like, I almost feel like maybe I should tweet them from the MDMC account and be like, yo, you guys turning into Fur's cafeteria? Because I think there's still a Fur's in Albuquerque. I know those have dwindled off, but
I don't think so, actually.
There used to be a Fur's near Cliffs Amusement Park. I remember that's where my mom would hang out too. She would go for
There's a Golden Corral in that neck of the woods.
And there's a Fur's cafeteria around there too.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Cliffs, yeah. I know Albuquerque. But
it's actually the same general vicinity.
Yeah, it's around that area. But my mom was like, you need to, like, she's telling me, like, I'm like, Mom, I don't know anyone at Golden Corral corporate. Are you insane? And she was like, but they need to do it this way because I don't want them to go out of business. And I was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I was like, I'll talk about it on the show tomorrow. And she's like, okay. But she's very concerned. She's like, I don't want one of my favorite food places to go away. And especially in Roswell. Roswell is only a population of 50,000 people. Like the rest of that stuff, and I know we were talking about supporting small businesses, but looking at the way the corporates handle and move their business model around is always a teaching point for us to be down here. Like, okay, like I love to see when company, and this is messed up, but I love to see when companies go through a catastrophe or a crisis. I always love to see what the PR person is going to do and how's the market going to do it.
Boeing.
Yeah. Boeing, who was the dude with the scandals? The NBA was doing the stuff with that guy that was having all the affairs and then he ended up stepping down. He got caught in a bunch of, oh God, this was around 2015. He owned the Lakers, I think.
No, it was the Clippers. You're thinking Clippers.
Was it the Clippers? I'm not sure, but I was like, whoa, what's going to happen here? And I remember I had interns. One of the cool things about my job, because I was so overwhelmed, was I got to hire college interns in. And I was like, all right, guys, we need to watch how this is going to play out. And we're going to take notes and we'll discuss. And they're like, all right. But I love to see how, corporates take care of their business the way they do. Teachable moments.
Well, and the one thing that's actually benefited Roswell now that we bring it up is that there's a boneyard. There's actually an airline boneyard there at the old Walker Air Force Base.
Right. I didn't know Elvis's plane was there. I had no clue about that.
Yeah, I've seen the inside. It's special. It's shag.
Ugh. Anyway.
But yeah, no, a lot of the airlines are parking their jets inside at Roswell. So in theory, there's been a benefit to the city of Roswell for this pandemic, for example, because as a result of all those jets being there and they have to maintain them, they have to bring in people to actually keep those jets going, in order to, make sure if the airlines want to run them again, which is right now highly doubtful,
Yeah, it's interesting because, every time I fly into Roswell, everyone's like, where the hell are we? I was like, this is the airplane graveyard. But, Roswell has the longest runways is it in the world? I mean, they used to be an Air Force base. That's why there's so much room out there. And that's really smart for Roswell to even tell people, hey, park your jets here, we'll take care of them. Who would have thought, you know? But that's a really great idea of staying on point and making sure that you're running your business effectively. Well, I think that's it for pandemic stuff, unless you have anything else more to add. We were at a 1:30. I was trying to keep this at an hour, but this is our novel episode, so it's going to be a little longer.
Oh, of course, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what, for example, we can actually do in order to make things go on and things happen. Right. But pretty much on that note, we still have more content to talk about.
Oh God, so much. We didn't even scratch the surface yet.
No, we didn't. And next week we'll continue on the idea of the more of the pandemic stuff, and maybe another topic, and add another topic into that as well.
Do we know what we're talking about next week? What's our next topic?
I haven't even looked at it.
We'll announce it on social. We don't know yet. I kind of wanted to see how this would work. I do want to give out a shout out to Dan Arquitas. He hit us up on the comments. He's probably not on here anymore. But proud of you, Martha. Thank you. I have not given him a life update. A lot of people don't even know what I've been through these past couple of years. And I left a lot of things out on that. I really did try to gloss over it because I didn't really, I don't know what I can really talk about or really what I can't yet. I choose not to. I exclude some things because I really don't think most of that will be beneficial to you guys. But just know I went through a couple hard times, and I'm standing here strong as the fighter that I am.
Yes, you are.
Which leads me on to Ryan of the Morphin Network calling me the Aztec Queen. I appreciate it. I love you. And of course, Stella, who is actually the sister of Dan, says she's proud of me. I thank you, Stella. I ran into Stella. It's kind of funny running into family. A lot of family asks me, are you ever coming back to New Mexico? And I said, I always fly over it. I just never end up there. And so, but I ran into her at a show a couple years ago with a talent. And so it was kind of cool to see her in that aspect. So I miss you guys back at home. Thanks for I think we at the strongest point, we had 10 viewers, and now we're down to 2. So thank you to the 2 that are still watching. That's dope. I hope any of this was beneficial to you guys, but I think that's a great place to end it. You have anything else to add?
No, we will continue this fun and excitement next week.
I think, definitely. I want to thank, I think our wonderful teacher, Patty Dobson, shared this onto the ENMU pages.
Alumni page, yep.
The alumni page. And I want to say the department, the comm department's Facebook page. Yes, ENMU Communications Alumni. And ENMU Department of Communication. Okay. Thank you guys. We are obviously ENMU alum. We appreciate you guys that are watching this. Just know I don't mean to segue again, but I did go to college there. I did learn a lot, and it's just kind of funny how I went in one direction thinking I was going to use my degree in one way, and now I'm sitting here as my own boss. So we'll talk more about that later. I know we have that lined up as to how we got to working for ourselves, but I appreciate all the support out there in New Mexico and ENMU. You guys are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. That's it, guys. So join us next week. We'll be doing this every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And thank you, Mark. He's out. He's out in Albuquerque. I'm over here in San Diego. So follow our Facebook page, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn as well. Follow us there. We're all over. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
All right. Bye. And